replace entry-level analysts or engineers within a couple of years. What do you guys think about that?
That's a strong
Yes,
take.
I think it's definitely gonna be replaced if you don't learn AI.
I don't agree, Yulan. I don't think it's going to happen.
Hi, hello everyone, and welcome back. You're listening to the episode 2 of the iHub AI Leap and Lead podcast series, and I'm so happy you're here. I am your host, Fiona, and if you caught episode 1 with Bruce, you remember we ended on this idea that AI isn't the villain and it isn't the savior. It's like a mirror or more like an amplifier. Well, today we are walking that mirror straight into the real world. Actual companies, actual industrials, and actual jobs. So right now it feels like everyone's in one of two camps. One is quietly terrified AI is coming. Is AI gonna replacing my job, Brazil? And the other thinks it's are all hype and nothing is really changed. So I brought on two people who actually see the truth from the inside. Warren Zhou, how welcome Warren Zhou is a customer success engineer at IBM. I'm gonna call him the builder, shipping the real AI tools. And Yulan Zhang is a senior consultant at Deloitte, the advisor, helping real companies figure out what AI actually means for them. So honestly, I'm hoping you two could have some disagree at some point because that's where the good stuff is. And Warren Yulan, welcome again, and welcome to the show. Before we get into it, let's just get to know you a little bit. Warren, kick us off. What's your role look like these days, and why are you here with us?
Sure,
And
thanks.
I'm really interested in your customer success engineer, this job title.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Fiona, and great to be here with you and Fiona, and Yulan. So I'm currently in the customer success organization of IBM. What that means is I help a lot of the large financial institutions to get the most use out of their IBM solutions, particularly from like a workflow and decisioning product standpoint. Think of the products that banks use to approve loans and mortgages. So that means the pre-sales activities, doing demos for them, making sure that they understand what's the latest and greatest and what's the value of utilizing like the AI functionality to actually being hands-on and deploying it, making sure that it fits their private hosting requirements, for example, that it's fully compliant with the regulations and that it can operate at the scale that's required. So in this role, I can see a lot of the spectrum of some of the skepticism and pessimism that you've alluded to, right? Where these are institutions that are very conservative. They are rightly very cognizant of any risks associated with exposing confidential customer data to AI and the damage that hallucinations could do to that data. But then there's still lots of enthusiasm of experimentation and setting up things quickly at a scale and pace like never before. Prior to my current role, I was in the product management organization at IBM, where from a market research lens and financial modeling lens, I was able to take a look at the landscape of the observability and AIOps market and got a very good sense of the evolution of Gen AI over the past few years as well. So that's informed a lot of my viewpoints on AI in enterprise.
Yeah, it's kind of hard if you have a very enthusiasm team or and a very skeptical leader in the AI era. So, Yulan, same question to you. What does a consultant in your role actually get here to do, and what's been pulling up your attention lately?
So actually, I'm really happy to hear what Warren said just now, and I think there's a lot that we can discuss. And actually, I think our roles are more similar than we originally thought. So from a consultant perspective, I'm currently working as a tech transformation consultant focused on life science and healthcare industry, where my previous role is mostly implementing large solutions for global pharma, could range from data management, data analytics, and regulatory management, information management systems. And recently, for the past year, we've been transitioning into developing and implementing more AI-focused solutions. And I think my client experience will be slightly different than Warren, where I still see a lot of the policies, risks as challenge and blockers instead of that things that are already being solved or being people actively solving them. So I think there's a little delay on how I'm experienced in those domains. And why I'm here today, I think I'm actually consider myself a regular user of AI. I'm not a very aggressive one, so I use it every day. So I first want to share how I use AI in the workplace, and I also share about how I think AI is changing the workspace, how my colleagues are working, and then also from my client experiences, I also want to share how I think the companies are going through AI transformation.
We're gonna work on those step by step from the clients, the ground users to the client to the bosses or to the enterprise. So Yulan, I want to hear like how did AI actually change your job? I want to hear the honest before and after. So probably a normal work week 2 years ago and versus now. So after the AI came out, what's generally different and what's exactly the same?
Yeah, that's a great follow-up. For me, as a consultant, our daily roles will be managing the client engagement. There's a lot of data analysis we need to do, emails, assessments, domain research. So all of these we are now delegating to AI. There, the capacity of AI is we can't imagine it. I'll give a specific use case.
Sure.
Previously, 2 years ago, I was not very happy sitting in a 5-day workshop, and I have to take verbatim notes and then summarize them during lunch hours, and then present it as a slide at the end of the workshop and getting additional inputs. Now it is much easier. The recordings are just done by Copilot, and we just feed it through Copilot or sometimes through Cloud to generate those presentable slides and tables to track action items. And then these are actually a lifesaver, I would say. Otherwise, I have to be focused for 8 hours every day. So that's one on note taking, which seems like easy, but I think it's a large amount of the work, especially for a consultant in his or her early career. And besides that, as I'm also an international employee, like English is not my native language, so I do think it helps me with the polishing of all the emails, of all the drafts. Yeah. But a caveat here is that it's an assistant. Our human is still the decision maker, the people who validates it. So we always need to pay a lot of attention to it. Just like you are checking the work of your newly recruited analyst.
Yeah, so probably you're gonna treat AI as one of your uh colleague or one of your smart
Yep.
colleague. Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
exactly.
So for Warren, and I'm curious, like, was there a moment AI stopped being a cool demo for you and become something real that people actually depend on? Because for me, as a student, uh, at the start when ChatGPT came out, for us it would be just something cool stuff, and we could chat about uh, anything on the ChatGPT. But suddenly it become a real smart homework helper. So I want to hear like what this scenario happened in the workplace.
Yeah, like Yulan, I found AI to be a really powerful tool for synthesizing lots of information quickly, whether it's summarizing emails or notes, or being able to get a deep research report in 10 minutes from Claude or ChatGPT that 2 years ago might have taken me a whole day or more. I think that is when it's became a need to have solution in my arsenal rather than something that's nice to have. I will say my observations with client usage of AI, the pace may not be as immediately quick as you might expect. So I think
Mhm.
Yulan earlier made an allusion to some of the policies and regulations that she's working through with clients. And on my end, I've observed that as well. There's one client that I've worked with where they've actually turned off AI in all their vendor tools until they go through very strict compliance checks and validate the provenance of the information, how exactly the data is going to be hosted, what are the costs associated with that. So there are organizations and teams taking a very measured approach to it. Um, Even the most advanced models, they will provide information that is not quite accurate. And there's use cases where it needs to be 100% accurate, not 99 or 99.5, right? So in those scenarios, if you work with a human subject matter expert who's been in the field for 30 years, I think there's still those situations where AI doesn't come close to the human expertise. And I think that's where, for them, AI is still more of a interesting tool and not quite need to have yet.
Yeah, sometimes AI does hallucinate a lot. Right? So now I'm gonna bring up a little fun game to you. So uh, I'm gonna call it popping bubbles, the bursting the bubble. So I'm going to throw out three claims people repeat all the time, and please tell me what's real and what's nonsense, both for you. So the first claim, AI will replace entry-level analyst engineers within a couple of years. So for both Yulan and Warren, is this a real threat or some fear mongering?
For me, the truth always lies somewhere in between, right? So certainly if you go back a couple of decades with the advent of the internet and the computer, you can imagine what happened to the folks who refused to touch a computer or refused to use the internet, right? So I think
True.
we're sort of at that wave now where if you don't experiment with it at all, if you don't get your hands on a keyboard and at least build some tools, even super simple ones, some simple solutions by yourself, you're going to be left behind, and that's going to put you at a disadvantage, right? So replacing humans entirely is still far-fetched now, but I think it's to everyone's benefit to not just listen to the news headlines, not listen to the fear mongering, have your own experiences with AI. And, if after that there's a dislike for it, or you think your current methodology still is better than AI, then,
Mhm.
more power to you. But I'd say more likely than not, AI is going to be a superpower, and those who use AI will replace those who don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to echo on Warren's point. I don't think the entry-level analyst will be replaced. I think the type of task that typically an entry-level analyst do will be replaced by AI. And the new entry-level analysts, they will have new jobs to do. They will be the one using AI. So that's my take on this.
Cool, but do you guys have some concrete case like how the entry-level analysts or how people uh, use AI if they don't want to left behind? Like how to live with AI?
I mean, the fact
I think I want
that
to
a
start
lot,
with,
oh,
go ahead.
No
yeah, I
worries.
think the fact that a lot of the tools just require natural language offer a
Mhm.
really low entry point, right? Just asking for some information like you would in a Google search,
Yeah.
or asking it to give you some feedback on something that you've written up. Those are pretty low effort ways to just get some exposure to the tools. And there's so many tutorials online nowadays of how to configure the tools to more of your specific advantage, prompting in specific ways or providing the right type of context. Um, but yeah, I think it shouldn't be intimidating once we're at this phase of a maturity curve of the AI industry. And ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever tool of choice is so accessible. And I would encourage anyone to just go and check it out.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to approach it from a different angle. I think it will be interesting to see and observe what is currently being replaced. You will see the people answering calls are being replaced most of the time. And then also people just typewriters being replaced, who are summarized scheduling meetings, it could be replaced. So I would envision a typical analyst, not necessarily consulting. There will be people picking up the line, scheduling an appointment with you, addressing any of the issues. I think a lot of these and many other use cases that you are currently experiencing AI helping you is going to be replaced in the future. So just try, make sure at least for those tasks that are already being replaced, you know how to use AI, or you know what is the technology behind it, and then do something else. Maybe focus on communication from your own uniqueness. But I think that will be a topic for our later sections.
Yeah, I'm actually recently tackle on the sales AI agent. So they make an AI agent just for sales, and the AI agent can do all the company search and can reach out through email to different companies and different buyers. And that is what I find that the human's decision and the human's judgment it will not be replaced by AI at all. Yeah. So the second claim. You can just drop AI into a company and get instant productivity. So, for this claim, what does integration actually cost in time and effort?
Yeah, I think one of the points you made, Fiona, regarding sales outreach and relationship building, I think that's an aspect that AI may not necessarily be able to contribute immediately from a productivity perspective, right? Any
Yeah.
organization that you work with, any team that you work with, there's a certain history of how it's evolved. Like, what are people's stances on particular issues? Why might they like a certain way of doing things or dislike a certain way of doing things? Um, what do they have a penchant for? What do they have deficiencies in? That's something that you can only really understand by working with them and having conversations with them. So you give AI access to all the documents in an organization, it's going to give you a solid foundation and perhaps be able to connect some dots and
Mhm.
offer instant productivity improvements in those pockets. But again, there's that human relationship dynamic which still can't quite be replicated by AI. In terms of the cost associated with the usage of AI, that's something that so many organizations are still trying to figure out how to define the ROI of it. From a pricing standpoint, you see so many headlines of companies quickly blowing through the budgets and not being able to accurately forecast how much they're going to spend on AI, while not being able to say that because they summarize these number of emails, for example, that their workers are 10x more productive, for example. So that's where something called evals come in,
Mhm.
determining if the output is what would have been helpful in that context, perhaps defined by a longtime subject matter expert with many years of industry experience. And that's something that the industry is continuing to go through, right? Finding the balance of do we go with a cloud-hosted model, something from OpenAI or Anthropic, or should we try to self-host and use an open source or open weight model, of which there are many variants right now, but again, they have their trade-offs in terms of performance and their own certain biases in certain topics. But there's a lot of experimentation. Lots of organizations are looking to find that right balance between the performance and the value and price. And I think it's a really interesting evolution that we're going to go through the next several years.
Yeah, AI adoption is not as easy as you thought. It is true. What about you, Yulan?
Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, adoption is not as easy as we thought. And for some of our projects, I have to say that as a disclaimer, it's just my personal experience. There are so many projects happening at Deloitte. Just for the projects that I experienced, I would say it is more about the process, the people, the change that is, and the policies that are stopping people. We have done projects, or like I would say, colleagues have done projects that we have did an AI strategy assessment, helping the company understand what they can do. Oh, they are very excited. They heard that we can do A, B, C.
Mm.
But when I go back to their leadership, it takes time for them to approve to say if we really want to spend the money, how can we justify the cost? Or oh, I don't think people's going to use it. Let's just not do it. So they spend the money doing the assessment, but they do not want to spend additional money trying to implement it because they worry people don't use it. And I think that's one of the cases we see that people don't want to move forward, but they're only excited to learn about it. And I would say the second case is when there are companies that actually have those implemented. Only people are excited to get the training, try it out, maybe 20 out of 100 people continue to use it, and the rest of them just use it maybe once or twice in a year. and then it will be hard to justify the cost before the implementation. So I think these two type of challenges both exist. What I think could help with it is like more company, maybe if more company use it, people will see more value from it, and there will be more mature use case in terms of how people manage the risks, maybe from a technical perspective, like Warren mentioned, how to make sure the data it's safe is from a privacy perspective, and from a regulation perspective, how those could be managed.
Okay. Great, great, great. So now come to our third claim. So a sort of a callback to episode one, but I'm gonna talk to you later after this claim. So AI will flatten the playing field. The average performers will catch up to the expert. Like with AI, you could do like there still exists a gap between people and people, but with AI, you could like if you are a because for me, I'm a data analysis, a statistic major, but I can catch up with all the marketing stuff and all the business analytics stuff with AI, and I can be a average business analytics just with AI. And for those who are doing all the economic stuff, they could use AI as the copilot and suddenly become an average uh, coder where they can code like
Yeah, I recently heard of a study that McKinsey, the consulting firm, did, where their take is that AI is good at taking an unskilled worker, say they would score 50% out of 100 on some test, and taking them to 70% quickly. But if you take someone who is already an expert, say they scored 92 out of 100, the AI might get them to 92 to 95, right? Just that
right, right.
incremental bump. So from that perspective, I'd say AI could be really good at just getting someone really quickly up to speed in a field that they're not knowledgeable about, right? So to your point about being knowledgeable about business really quickly when you don't have that exposure, then I totally agree. AI is great for that. But when you're looking to be competitive in a field and you have lots of other knowledgeable companies and organizations, that's where that edge of the 1%, the 0.5%, the 0.1% is going to be really important. And that's where the institutional knowledge, the histories of the dynamics between people and teams and organizations are coming to play. And AI just isn't trained on that data, right? Like IBM has done its own studies where it's found that the vast majority of enterprise data is not has not been trained on AI, right? If you think about the ChatGPT
Mhm.
and like the clouds of the world, those were trained on public internet sources, right? But due to the sensitive nature of healthcare institutions, of financial institutions, telecom communications companies, they don't expose their data. And so there's still a lot of messiness that requires human subject matter experts to understand. And those junior folks joining the workforce for the first time, I would say they are still going to be dependent on the more senior folks to mentor them and guide them through the considerations to work through, rather than AI being able to give them the answers in that organization specific context. Um, so yeah, that's been my experience, and I think that will likely continue to be the case unless there's an inflection point where these enterprises do host their own fine-tuned models that are trained on their own data, and their employees can query that information quickly on their own. And so at IBM, I've observed that too. We have our own internal chatbots that we can access to query for IBM specific information, but that is still a ways off from being able to ask someone who's worked there for 30 years or 40 years and work with so many different IBMers and just learning from their own insights and stories is totally different than asking a chatbot.
Yeah, but I do have some personal questions. So you talking about people who's working for 30 years or 40 years, but for some like younger people or Gen Alpha or Gen Z, they are not they don't have as much as the working experience as you mentioned. What did they do? Like they don't have a expertise perspective from a job or a company, but will it, for them will AI be a equalizer or amplifier? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of both. I think the helpful practice of having the balance of doing some of their own homework and then asking more senior people for help is
Mhm.
still going to apply. So in the past, that homework may have come in the form of going through some internet searches and looking through some internal documentation, writing up a synthesis of their own so they have their own perspectives on it. And now that's just accelerated by AI that can pull for all those different sources and information much more quickly. But like I mentioned, there's still going to be some set of dynamics or histories that AI is just not going to be knowledgeable about. It's not been trained on that. And so that's where the human connection of looking to build mentorship um, connections is going to be really important for their career growth.
Great. So you guys, so since your the consultant job was more human oriented, does that happens a lot? Like the AI could be flatten the average person. Does that happen a lot in your set?
Yeah, actually, I think it's an amplifier. I actually think AI is a tool, so it depends on how people want to use it. And then from a consulting perspective, I also think the gap is going to be larger. What is being replaced is just a task. How people is doing the job, what is their mindset, what is their communication style is the thing that differentiate people.
Yes, the way the mind sign, the way they thought, that is so true. So for I'm gonna line for now. So probably for the younger our audience, do you have any like uh, recommendations or advice for the younger people who it's about to get into a industry or into a company, like the transition from school to the real industry, since it could be a lot different from using AI from the education side to the industry side. So do you have any like advices for them?
Yeah, I'd say just always keep an open mind, right? Hopefully, throughout university, they've cultivated a mindset of being able to understand different perspectives, coming to a point of view on their own accordingly, being able to formulate coherent arguments in an empathetic and respectful manner. So AI isn't going to change that. AI can't live their life for them and can't do their job for them fully. It is a very powerful tool. It can pull from lots of different sources of information, but the more that they're exposed to domains outside of technology
Hmm.
and keep up with current events, have different perspectives on those events, and they can use AI to help create that perspective. I think that's going to go a long way, but don't lose sight of the human connection, right? Ultimately, these AI tools were trained on so many bodies of human produced information. So the more that those entering the workforce can continue to consume the original material, right? Still read books, read magazine articles,
Hmm.
watch videos, not just take AI at its word. The more that they can be able to check on AI's output and be able to validate that the information is correct and not just go along with whatever the tool says.
Definitely.
Makes sense. I'm gonna listen to what Warren just said. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think, as I mentioned previously, I think AI is the tool. We are the human, so we don't need to worry about it. We need to be happy. It's an opportunity. We need to embrace AI. We can take advantage of it to achieve what we want to do. So, maybe a set point, I think currently in my workplace, there's a lot of training opportunity that different hyperscaler, Google, Microsoft, AWS, they're offering AI training. And our company have like week-long AI bootcamps and all those trainings to make sure the talent can catch up. So maybe a good segue into, I actually think starting to learn AI and be hands-on in AI and being able to collaboratively work on an AI project with your peers is also a great asset. So comes to our AI bootcamp, I think it will be a great opportunity to use the IBM Skill Build Bootcamp to boost yourself.
Yeah, I will listen to your guys' suggestions real well. Okay, so thank you so much for Yulan. And I'm gonna summarize in one sentence. Probably the real danger was never that AI is gonna replacing you, is that you phrase yourself. So probably this was exactly the honest, no hype conversation I hoped for. And for everyone listening, this is exactly why we built the 2026 iHub IBM Skills Build Next Generation AI Innovation Bootcamp. We are building leaders who know where AI is real, where it's a hype, and how to actually create with it. So come find your own path with us and stay tuned about our AI bootcamp just starting from July 25th. This has been the iHub AI Lip and Lip podcast series. And in an AI world, go find your own path. Thank you guys. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Yulan.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's a
Bye.
great
Thank you,
conversation.
Jacqueline,
Thank
back here.
you.
Bye bye.